2023 is upon us, and that means 2022 is in the rear-view mirror. How will you remember the weather from last year? If anything, it had a lot of ups and downs, was often erratic, brought us some hot days, but also some big snowstorms and everything in between. So in today's Climate Friday newsletter, we're going to break down 2022, do a year in review, and talk about some of those temperature extremes, precipitation extremes, and also the role that climate change may have played in the weather that we experienced last year. Let's begin the year in review of 2022. Lots of ups and downs to be had last year. However, if we look at the whole year as a whole, we saw 8 months that were above average in the temperature department. Well over half of the year was above average, and 8 of the 12 months experienced temperatures that were above the normal mark. Looking at a monthly breakdown, we had 4 months that were colder than average, so it was a little bit less than a 50-50 split. And not surprisingly, we were skewed towards those warmer days. 8 months brought us temperatures that were above normal in 2022. Specifically, the hottest month of the year, no surprise there, that was July. When you factor in the high temperatures and also the overnight lows, our average temperature in July was a whopping 76 degrees. Exceptional heat over the summer. Now, the coldest day was also not too surprising. In January, we had an average monthly temperature of 22 degrees, and that is significant because that was almost 6 degrees colder than average. Of course, January is often the month where we experience those coldest temperatures. However, January of 2022 in particular, it brought us exceptionally cold temperatures, almost 6 degrees colder than normal compared to that July heat. Let's talk a little more about the extreme heat. This is something that is often associated with climate change, is the increased frequency, propensity, and intensity of some of these hot days. 90-degree days in 2022. We had a whopping 23 of them, and many of those were in June. Of course, June, July, August, the hottest 3 months of the year. 8 of those were in the month of June. 23 total days exceeding the 80-degree mark. What was our hottest day of last year? We had a triple-digit reading, 100 degrees on the 21st of June. We got pretty close a couple of other times, but we couldn't quite get over the 100-degree threshold. That June 21st was the hottest day. Now, summer was notable from 2022 because it was very warm, especially when you look at those high temperatures. We talked about this summer, how that average was 76 degrees, including the highs and the lows, but the high temperatures alone brought us to an average of 86 degrees. Summertime certainly getting warmer. Now, what about the winter and the coldest days of the year? We also had some extremes in that department. We got to 5 below zero on the 29th of January. As I mentioned, January 22 was a cold one to begin the new year. 5 below zero was the coldest day that we recorded last year, which is quite the temperature contrast. In fact, 105 degrees colder than the warmest day that we had over the summer. What about the biggest snowstorm? This is also not surprising whatsoever. We got over a foot of snow out of that big-time blockbuster early February snowstorm. Of course, that was split over the course of 2 days. One of those days brought us about 8 inches, and the remaining 4 and change came the other day for a total of over a foot of snowfall on February 2nd through 3rd of the year. What about the wettest? We also got a lot of precipitation. July was notable because we had a summer that was filled with hot days, but also very wet days with big rainfall events. During the month of July, we got over 4.5 inches of rainfall. An unusually wet summer was recorded in 2022. Now, the driest month of the year, this is also something that is pretty typical to climatology. January didn't even bring us an inch of rainfall. You may have heard before that during the colder winter months, the air can't hold quite as much moisture, and that is one of the biggest contributors to why months like January only bring us 0.64 inches of rain. During the summertime, when we have more rich moisture and warmer temperatures, we're able to have a little bit more rainfall and bigger rainfall events. Now, we did set some records in 2022, and those records are becoming more common. Looking at the frequency of record by decade, the 2020s so far have delivered a lot of record high temperatures and not very many record lows. You'll notice on this graph we're comparing record hot and record cold days, and those red ones show you more and more record highs that are becoming a little bit more common. Of course, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, we did still have some record high temperatures, but there were also a lot more record cold temperatures. and it used to be more about a 50-50 skew. Now we are trending towards milder days and not so many of those cold records. What about precipitation and rainfall? Actually, we were pretty close to the normal mark. That gray line shows you an average rainfall year. We were fairly close throughout the year to a normal distribution of rainfall, snowfall, precipitation. Our wettest is still well above the line for 2022, and our driest well below that as well. So we split the difference. As far as precipitation goes, when you factor in all 12 months, it was fairly normal. But of course, we also had a very warm year. We had some exceptionally warm days, and also 8 of the 12 months were milder than average. So how is 2023 starting off? Overall, it looks like it's going to be a warm one. That being said, it's not going to be very much above normal. Our average high is down to 35 degrees, so it doesn't take much to be considered mild. We're not promising you any more spring-like days, but when you do stay tuned to that WTOL 11 weather forecast, you'll see for Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan, a lot of days in the upper 30s to near 40 degrees, which is slightly above average, and much of the Great Lakes and Midwest region is likely to kick off the new year with slightly warmer than normal conditions. As we enter 2023 and see whatever ups and downs this year has in store weather-wise, stay tuned to the next Climate Friday newsletter. You can subscribe at WTOL.com/email for the very latest information pertinent to climate change.